Hello, my name's Becky May from Frond Yoga, and this class is designed to bring awareness to the parts of the body that are associated with the bandhas. So bandha in Sanskrit means energy lock, and it's a vast topic. I'm not going to go into what the bandhas are in great detail in this class, it's more experiential. But in essence, it's working on a physical level. It's about engaging with the pelvic floor for the root lock, Mula Bandha, this sense of gentle contraction of the pelvic floor or the perineum. It's actually more subtle than that, but that's a good starting point. It's this kind of lifting, and in our physical practice this creates stability and grounding deep within the body. And on the physical level it's also about engaging with our deep postural muscles, so our transverse abdominals, this fleshy corset that supports the spine, and the psoas muscle, iliopsoas, that connects from the spine down the front of the hip flexors or hips to the inner thighs, linking the top and the upper and lower parts of the body together. So these are kind of core stability muscles, postural muscles, deep within the body. So we're going to be putting awareness in the seat of Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor, in the seat of these deep postural muscles for Uddiyana Bandha, which is the flying up lock. And when we gently connect with or gently contract these deep postural muscles, there's a sense of drawing energy up the body. And again, in our physical practice it manifests as stability, core intelligence, deep stability and strength, wisdom in how we perform the postures. And the third place we're going to put our awareness is in the throat. So the throat lock is called Jalandhara Bandha, and physically it's the drawing of the chin bone towards the chest bone, sealing the gap here between the chin and the chest. And it's used more for pranayama practices, especially with breath retention, but some postures we naturally find Jalandhara Bandha, like the shoulders down and the plough, and we'll explore those. So we're really, today the intention is to put our awareness in these three parts of our body. So this involves pratyahara, sense withdrawal, bringing the awareness into the body. It involves dhyana, single pointed focus. We're going to be very focused. And on a more subtle level, pranic level, which is really where bandha work is going, it's the less tangible side of yoga. We're working with energy, so if you think that Mula Bandha's sealing energy in at the bottom of our central energy column, Sushumna Nadi, and Jalandhara Bandha's sealing it in at the top, and Uddiyana Bandha's kind of transforming and moving energy, drawing it up the spine. So that's all the information I'm going to give now. As I say, it's a vast topic, but today is about awareness, bringing the awareness inside, connecting with these parts of the body on the physical level, the way we can most easily connect, the most tangible. Okay, so we're going to start seated, so be comfortable, hands wherever you wish, in a mudra, in the lap, but what we really want to feel here is a connection between the lower part of the body and the floor. And you see how I'm sitting, I've actually got my heel pressing into my groin here, the back heel. So if that's an option for you, if there's a way you can make contact between your pelvic floor, perineal area and your heel, then great. If you can't, don't worry, don't force it. But we start by just dropping, in a way, the two bandhas that are most hard to physically connect with are Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, both in this lower abdomen, pelvic floor region, deep within the body. So as we take our awareness into our lower body, feeling how it's connecting to the floor and kind of surrendering our body to the floor, so a sense of dropping downward energy, apanic downward energy. Already we're moving our awareness into this part of the body, deep in the pelvic bowl. So as you drop through the pelvis and the legs, have a sense of rising up through the spine, keeping the shoulders relaxed, and just gently draw the chin towards the chest. We're not looking for full Jalandhara Bandha here, but just a lengthening of the back of the neck and moving towards the chin lock. So drawing the chin in, And then we're going to start with just Ujjayi breath. So if you don't know Ujjayi breath, just breathe in and out through the nose, but really focus on the passage of the air in the throat as it passes through the throat. If you know Ujjayi breath, we're contracting the muscles at the back of the throat to create the audible quality to the breath. There is a Ujjayi tutorial on my YouTube channel that you can look at. So start to create the audible breath. So now we have awareness in the lower body, deep in the pelvic floor and in the throat. See if you can spontaneously be aware of these three parts of the body simultaneously. Or just notice if you have to move your attention, your awareness between the pelvic floor, the deep postural muscles and chin to chest. So we're moving towards the chin lock here and focusing on Ujjayi breath. At the same time, have a sense of lifting up on the umbrella muscle of the perineum, or lifting up on the whole pelvic floor. So we're not losing that connection between the legs and the pelvis and the floor, but there's this activation. It's like an umbrella muscle, a bit like a little diaphragm. We're lifting up. And even if you can't find that mind connection with these muscles, doesn't matter, just by putting our awareness into doing this already, we're forming this mind-muscle connection. It happens over time. And then have a sense of feeling into your inner body, and you might have no idea, no sense of what this looks like, but imagine the spine being held by this fleshy corset of muscles. Have a sense of drawing that in, almost gently squeezing, gently hugging these muscles into the spine. So a good direction is to draw the navel back to the spine, and that starts to engage these deep muscles, but keep it very subtle and very relaxed. Breathing deeply, Ujjayi breath. And we're going to just use sound. We're going to use the seed sound of the root chakra, which the location of Muladhara, the root chakra, is very similar to the seat of Bandha. So it just helps us drop our awareness down into the pelvic floor, the base of the spine, just beyond the tip, just below the tip of the spine. So we're going to 3 times take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, instead of Om, you're going to say Lam, L-A-M, but like Om. Okay, so 3 times. And as we exhale, feel like the awareness is dropping down from the crown of the head, down the spine, and at the end of the Lam, we're resting in the pelvic bowl, the seat of the pelvic bowl. Okay, so when you're ready in your own time, visualizing your awareness dropping into the pelvic bowl. Travel down the body, and just pause when you finish, just feeling any sensations, vibrational, kind of echoey after effects in this lower abdomen, pelvic floor, base of the spine, pelvic floor region. Great. And while we're here, we're just going to do some neck stretches to continue our building awareness in the throat area. So keeping the spine straight, you're going to inhale in the centre, and exhale we drop the chin towards the chest, lengthening the back of the neck. Maybe it will touch, maybe it won't. Inhaling, stretch the chin up towards the ceiling, stretching the front of the throat, so really exposing the throat. Just keep that going 3 times each side, so exhaling, chin towards or touching the chest. Maybe you even find your Bandha, but no force. Inhale, stretching the chin up. You don't have to throw the head all the way back. Just stretch the skin of the throat. So we're just starting to awaken the muscles in the neck that we need to be awake and open for Chalandara Bandha. And when you've done 3 up, 3 down, come back to the centre. Inhale, centre. And exhale, turn to look over your left shoulder. Inhale, centre. Exhale, look over the right shoulder. Inhale, centre. Exhale, left. Inhale, centre. Exhale, right. And then from here, just take the fingertips out to the side. Inhale, centre, and exhale, drop the left ear to the left shoulder, so only the head moves, spine stays upright. Walking the right fingertips out as far as they'll go, so you feel the stretch down the right side of the neck. And if you want a little bit more, take the left hand over the top and just holding the ear, so fingertips just below the ear. You can give ever so gently a little bit of traction here by slightly pulling on the skin below the ear, so pulling up ever so gently to increase the stretch. So we're not pushing down, just gently resting the hand and pulling up ever so slightly. Breathing deep into the stretch down the right side of the neck and the upper right shoulder. And then just bring the hand to the left temple to bring it back to the centre without straining the neck muscle. Release the fingertips again. Inhale, centre, and exhale, right ear towards right shoulder. Walking the left fingertips out as far as they'll go. Maybe adding the hand. If you've already got an intense stretch, just skip the hand, but otherwise we're bringing right hand over the top. And again, gently resting the hand on the ear and using the fingertips to pull the skin of the neck up ever so slightly. Increasing that stretch, and breathe deeply into that stretch for the neck and the shoulder. Great. And then using the hand on the right temple to bring the head to the centre. And then let's just put all that together with one complete circle in each direction. So start by dropping the chin to the chest, and then roll the left ear to the left shoulder till you feel that stretch down the right side of the neck. And then it's like you're drawing a rainbow with your chin. Really stretch the chin up to the top corner. Stretch up to the ceiling without throwing the head all the way back. Stretch out to the opposite top corner. Bring the right ear to the right shoulder. And then roll your chin across the collarbone back to the centre. And change directions. Roll the chin back along the collarbone. Right ear to right shoulder. And then draw that rainbow, stretching, stretching, stretching the chin out to the side and up. Out to the opposite corner, left ear to left shoulder, rolling the chin along the collarbone back to the chest, and then return to centre. Great. And then we'll come down onto our backs. So come to lie down, and we're just going to engage with the psoas muscle, try to start to find an engagement with these deep postural muscles. So just lie here on the floor and push through the heels and feel like you're pressing the lower ribs down into the mat, so that natural curve at the base of the spine, we're trying to lessen it a little bit, and you'll feel deep core muscles switch on as you do that. So now we're moving towards connecting with our deep transverse abdominals. And then let's stretch out the psoas, so keep that going, and inhale, raise the hands overhead. Giving the psoas a nice big stretch here. It's a stringy ribbon-like muscle. It's an amazing muscle. And then exhale, bend the right knee into the chest, bring the hands forward. And what we're looking for here is to be kind of almost pulling the knee towards the face. I'm not pushing down, I'm almost pulling it towards me and pushing out through the opposite heel. So my left heel is actively pushing away from me, and I'm drawing my right knee towards my face. So we're getting a lovely lengthening down the left psoas. Keep pushing the lower ribs into the mat. Notice if you've rolled onto the right side of your back, probably. See if you can centralise, see if you can activate those deep transverse muscles to come back to central alignment, so the sacrum, the bony plate at the base of the spine, is evenly pressing on the floor. One more deep breath. And then exhale, release. And extend that right leg out. Let's come back to that full stretch. So inhale, hands overhead. We're pushing down through the lower ribs, feeling that deep core activation, pushing out through both heels. And then on your exhale, bend the left knee into the chest, interlace the hands around the shin, or hold the back of the knee. And again, pull the knee towards you as you push out in the other direction through the active right heel. So we're trying to create space around the hinge of the body, the hips, the pelvis area. Breathing deeply, relaxing the back, the shoulders, the face. And then release. Okay, just come back to the full stretch again one more time, maybe interlacing the hands over the head, pushing out through the heels, pressing the lower ribs down. Okay, and then release that and bring the feet to the floor, the knees bent. And I'm going to introduce you to the marble exercise, which is so good for connecting with our deep abdominals here, not the external six-pack that we see, well, maybe we see, maybe not, but deep in the body. So imagine you've got a marble resting on your belly button, and we're going to try and engage the muscles, even if it's just done with our mind, our visualization to begin with, until we make this connection. But eventually we actually can contract different parts of these abdominals separately. And that's what we're moving towards doing, having this level of inner connection. So first of all, we're going to imagine that the marble's rolling down towards your right hip bone. So, but we're not going to move the body, or we're going to minimise the movement of the body. So try and keep the sacrum connected to the floor, the back connected to the floor, and feel it as a contraction of the right side of the belly button, the muscles to the right of the belly button. And don't worry if you can't isolate that for now, it's absolutely fine, but we're just beginning to build this mind-muscle connection. So imagine that you've pushed, you've probably found that the left side of the sacrum's risen slightly. It's fine, it's normal, but we're minimising that movement. So the marble's rolled down to rest against the inner right hip bone. And then just let it come back to the navel. And then we're going to go push the marble down towards the pubic bone. So an easy way to do this would be to totally tilt the pelvis and arch the lower back, but we're going to try and minimise that movement and use our deep abdominals instead. So have a sense of contracting the muscles below the belly button now, drawing them into the body and as best as possible not switching on the other muscles. Again, don't worry if you can't isolate the movement, just do this as a visual exercise at least. And then coming back to the middle, letting your marble come back to the navel and relaxing between sides. Belly breathe between sides. And then we're going to let that marble drop towards the inner left hip bone. So again, trying to keep the sacrum on the floor, have a sense of contracting the left side of the deep abdominals. And the right side of the body, I can feel it in myself, is naturally lifting a little bit, but I'm trying to minimise that. I'm trying to press down through the right side as well as engaging these left deep transverse abdominals. And then release that, let the marble come back to the navel. And you can probably guess, to complete this, we're going to try and let the marble draw up towards where the rib cage meets. So again, an easy way would be to lift the pelvis, but we minimise that movement, we keep the sacrum connected, and we try and engage the abdominals above the navel now. And inevitably there'll be a flattening out of the lower back into the floor, it's natural. But try not to lift, try not to peel the buttocks off the floor. And then release, come back to the middle. Notice how the natural curve in the spine returns. And let's just do one round in each direction. So starting, we're going to roll the marble round in a circle. So let it roll out to the right hip bone, let it roll forward towards the pubic bone. Noticing how the sacrum naturally moves, the hips move, but try and minimise the movement. Letting it roll to the left hip bone and letting that marble roll up towards the rib cage. And then change direction. Taking it over to the left hip bone, forward to the pubic bone. Very subtle, deep work this. Over to the right hip bone, up to the rib cage, and release. Let that marble rest in the belly button, and we can just remove the marble off. Our belly now takes a nice deep belly breath, relax. It's quite hard work this for the body. We're not used to being so focused, so deep in the body. And that's really what this class is designed for. Okay, and then while we're here, one final thing we're going to do is just again stretch the neck. So you can take your hands, interlace your hands behind your head. There's something at the back of the skull called the occipital hold, and you can maybe just feel it just where the neck, where the head, where the cranium meets the neck. There's like a bony ridge, a bit of a bony ridge, and you can kind of interlace your hands and almost push your thumb so it's just underneath that ridge. So you're supporting the head. If you can't find the ridge, don't worry, just hold just above the neck, interlacing the fingers, and then the challenge is to try and just drop the head into the hands. We always want to help. We're so used to supporting the head with the neck muscles, it's difficult to switch those muscles off as best we can. We heavy the head into the hands, and you're using your hands to pull up on the skin of the neck. So especially if you found the occipital hold and you've got that little grip for the thumbs, you're kind of pulling up a little bit to create traction. And then we're going to keep the head heavy and keep that pulling up of the thumbs, but start to use the arms to draw the chin towards the chest. As far as is right for you, you can bring the elbows closer to the face if you like. So we're stretching, tractioning, upper back, the skin on the back of the skull. Hold for a couple of breaths at full extension. Maybe the chin's to the chest, maybe not, it doesn't matter. And then slowly release. All the way down. Great, releasing the hands. And then we're going to come up to hands and knees, so just roll to the side, push yourself up. Coming to tabletop position, hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And let's just cat-cow here, but focusing on this movement of the pelvis. So as we inhale, we tilt the pelvis up. And then that wave of motion up the spine, dropping the belly, shoulders back, looking up. Exhaling, tucking that tailbone under, pushing through the spine, upper back to the ceiling, chin to the chest. So maybe Jalandhara Bandha here. And just keep that going a few more times, feeling this wave of motion up the spine that's initiated with the pelvic tilt. And really this is amazing work for when we're working to connect with the bandhas, because the kind of the runway of the bandhas is up the spine. So mobilizing, flexing, moving the spine is all helping us awaken Sushumna Nadi, the central energy channel. Okay, and at the end of your next exhale, drawing it to a close. And we're just going to use a bit of core work to feel how Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha activation can help in our physical practice. So as we are here, just if you've been pregnant, you might have, or had any bladder issues, you might have already been used to doing these little pelvic floor contractions. So as you're here in tabletop, see if you can just squeeze and release the pelvic floor. So it's those muscles that we use if we need a pee and there's no toilet around, so we squeeze everything in. It's also if we need a poo and there's no toilet around, and squeezing everything in. So for now we're going to squeeze everything, just the whole of the pelvic floor. We get quite intimate with our bodies when we start to explore, especially Mula Bandha. That might be another class, but for now just pelvic floor, contract, release. So we're aware of our pelvic floor. And then see if you can just hold the pelvic floor in. Now by doing that, you've probably already activated Uddiyana Bandha to some extent. So we're going to feel this sense of lifting the belly up to the spine. So rather than just sagging it out and the pelvic floor, losing all that pelvic floor contraction, we're contracting the pelvic floor, even if it's just very gently, and lifting navel to spine. So we kind of engage with the physical seats of these bandhas. And then with that switched on, stretch your right leg out behind you. Try not to lose it. The tendency is to sag in the lower belly. Try not to lose this connection. And then see if you can take the opposite hand out. So we're stretching diagonally through the body. Actually just coincidentally getting a nice stretch for those inner postural muscles, whilst also really contracting. Keep lifting belly to spine. Keep lifting on pelvic floor. Breathe. Don't lose the breath. And exhale, release. Okay, so let's just try the other side. If you need to just lift up the right wrist and mobilise it a little bit, that's fine. So again, find the awareness first. Start with the pelvic floor. If you need to do a few contract, release first, then do so. And then lift belly up to spine. So we're there. You may feel it as just this heat or this powerhouse, this energy centre. And keep that switched on as you stretch your left leg out. And then the right arm joint. So again, stretch. So we've got this diagonal stretch through the body, ground through the hand and the foot that's on the floor. And then see if you can stay connected to the pelvic floor connection. Stay with that lift of the navel up to the spine. And connect to deep breath. You could keep Ujjayi breath going, so we keep the throat awareness as well. And then exhale, release. And just take A little child's pose here, just to rest the wrists, so come up on the fingertips, lift the wrists high, drop the head. Breathe deeply, just have a rest. This is quite intense work, maybe not physically intense, but mentally intense, to keep this mental inner focus. So it's tiring work, so just give yourself a rest, let all the muscles work, all the muscle activation go here. Okay, then we're going to come up to downward dog. So tuck the toes and lift the hips, and look back to the feet, spreading the toes, sinking the heels. Maybe you need to just bend the knees a little bit here. And again, let's just see if we can connect with our pelvic floor, maybe doing the squeeze release a few times and then holding on the squeeze, and noticing how already when you squeeze the pelvic floor in, the deep abdominals also engaged. If you don't feel that, lift the navel up to the spine. So if you don't have a kind of established core awareness practice, you might not feel anything going on, and that's fine. We just keep putting out consciousness and awareness there and keep practicing. We're in for the long haul here. Bandha journey is a long, long journey. Okay, a life work. And maybe Jalandhara Bandha for a moment, maybe bringing the chin in further in towards the chest. Breathing deep. And then releasing the chin. If you know breath of fire, Kapalabhati, just do a little bit of breath of fire here, where we're breathing out through the nose sharply by contracting those deep transverse abdominals and lifting the diaphragm. And release. Okay, we're going to walk the feet up towards the hands. Just take a forward fold for a few breaths here, maybe holding the elbows. And I often say in yoga, hollow out the lower belly, and really this is all helping us connect to the physical seat of our bandhas. So that sense of hollowing out the lower belly, maybe you need to bend the knees to find that, but again it's the same. Can we contract the pelvic floor even here when we're inverted and when the pelvic floor is quite open? We can still have a sense of drawing up or in towards the body and navel to spine, and what you may feel is just a hollowing feeling, so you can rest your ribs on your thighs and maybe the belly is not necessarily touching the thighs. And then from here, we're going to just stretch the psoas again. So step the left foot back. We're going to bring the left knee down to the floor and come into a crescent moon lunge. So allow the hips to drop forward. And you know, we haven't been that dynamic, so you might feel like you can't go to where you would normally go with this after sun salutation. So listen to the body, be gentle, but feel the stretch on the front of the hip. And maybe you can have a sense that it's moving higher up the body, maybe even a connection to the back. If this is enough, stay here. Otherwise, inhale, raise the hands. Sinking the hips forward and low and lifting and stretching up. So remember, the psoas muscle connects the upper body to the lower body. So as we drop down through the legs, down through the hips, but lift up through the spine, and we're stretching the psoas in two directions, giving it a great opening here. It's a muscle that gets very contracted chronically in many of us. Again, that's another class. But breathe deeply here. Great. And then exhale, release. And slowly come off that back here. And we're going to come into splits prep. We might revisit splits later in the class, because splits is one of the key areas to connect to the seat of Mula Bandha, because it's actually the pelvic floor rests on the floor. But for now, we'll prepare, like I say, this is a long journey. Half Hamanasana, half splits. So keeping the right heel where it is, just flex the foot and fold over that front leg, opening the back of the leg. So for splits, Hamanasana, you need an open hip flexor on the back leg, open hamstrings on the front leg, and many other things. But in this sequence of crescent moon to half splits, that's what we're preparing for. Breathing deep, relax the jaw. release the foot back down and just simply swap sides. So take that right leg back, bring the left leg forward, and we just start to drop the hips forward and low, and we're looking for that stretching feeling on the front of the right hip now. You can stay here, grounding down through the top of the right foot, heel of the left foot, or we can inhale, raise the hands. Sinking the hips down, reaching up in the opposite direction with the fingertips. One more breath. And exhale, releasing the hands down. And half splits, just keep the left heel where it is, walk the fingertips back and fold over the front shin. Breathing deep. Opening the back of the left leg now. And then bring the sole of the left foot back down. And we're going to take the left foot back, left knee back to join the right. Tuck the toes under and find plank. So this is another posture where we can really feel the physical benefits of connecting to the physical aspect of our bandhas. So if we weren't connected at all, we may be sagging, but like we did on our hands and knees, draw the pelvic floor in towards you, or lift up on it and lift that belly up to the spine. You also need to be strong in the arms, pressing down through the hands, and strong in the legs. Building a bit of fire here, breathe deeply. If it's too much, put the knees back on the floor. Great. And then from here, knees down. Again, just take a little child's pose. Rest. And then coming back up to tabletop, back up to downward dog, just transitioning now. We're going to come up to stand. So take a breath in downward dog, look forward and walk, step the feet to the hands. Inhale, look up, just take that back body opening here. Exhale, drop the head in towards the shins. Inhale, raise the hands above the head, push down through the feet, stretch up through the fingertips, and exhale, hands to the side, Tadasana. And let's just explore the downward and upward energies in the body in Tadasana. So the fingertips are actively pushing down towards the floor. The feet are open and actively pressing down into the mat, shoulders dropping. So we're dropping down, we're connecting with that apanic downward energy that's a grounding, rooting energy. Yet also there's this upward energy. It's like we're drawing energy from the earth up the legs. The spine is long, the neck is long, and it's like somebody's pulling a string on the top of the head. So all this is going on at the same time. Apanic down energy, pranic up energy. And although we're more working with the physical aspects of the bandhas today, as we feel the down and the up energy within us, know that when we start to work with bandhas physically, we also start to just incidentally work energetically, pranically too. So as you stand here now, just find again that pelvic floor lift, maybe doing the squeeze release a few times to find it. And draw the navel back to the spine. So what we're doing here is we're playing, there's a downward energy, and we're playing with this by lifting up to seal that downward energy in at the base of the spine. And Uddiyana Bandha helps redirect it up the spine. And then if you can, maybe even find Jalandhara Bandha here, and then we're sealing that energy in at the top of the spine. So it's being prevented from leaking out the base of the spine. It's being redirected up where it mingles with other energetic movements in the body. It's stopped from leaving the body at the top. So it's sealed in the Shushumna Nadi. Building, 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 and then when we get more able to connect with our inner energy, it's then available to be moved and transformed to wherever we need it, wherever it's needed most. So releasing Jalandhara Bandha if you took it. Great. We're just going to do a couple of standing postures again to feel the physical benefits and to help us connect with the more Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha will come on to Jalandhara Bandha. So from here we're going to try a balance. We're going to try the warrior 3, but we'll come into it in a particular way. So when you balance, it really helps if you engage with these parts of the body, these deep inner workings of the body, to find that central powerhouse before you then go into the posture. It makes all the difference. So ground through your left foot and left leg. Feel the left leg, that's going to be your standing leg. But then also connect with pelvic floor lift, navel to spine. Feel this. It's like a gentle drawing in, power in the lower belly region, pelvic floor region. And keep that switched on as you lift. Use your right hip flexor, right psoas to lift that right knee, flexing the right foot. Stay here. And then take the hands forward around the front of the shin or the back of the knee, and see if you can draw the knee in a little bit more, keeping the spine upright, keeping the connection to the seat of our bandhas, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. Now keep that connection, because we're going to transition from here into warrior 3. So flex that right foot, and it's like you're pushing through air. So keep the leg very engaged and push that leg back. Let's see if you can keep connected. It's quite difficult when we start to move to keep the connection. But even if you just keep your mental awareness in this part of the body, the pelvic floor and the lower belly, as we stretch the right leg out behind us. So for now my arms are stretching behind me because that's easier. The toes of the right foot are pointing towards the floor. But if you want the full posture, you can take the hands forward. And now we're at full stretch, back through the heel, forward through the fingertips. Can we still stay connected? Can we still keep lifting navel to spine? Lifting pelvic floor. Great, and then can we again slice through the air with control, shape shifting whilst keeping connected, even if it's just keeping our mental awareness in this part of the body, and we're just coming out the way we went in, so squeezing the knee up to the chest, releasing the hands to the side, and exhale, releasing the right foot down next to the left. So maybe you felt like a resource, an extra resource by connecting with your bandhas, and maybe you didn't. This is practice, practice, practice. Okay, so let's do that again on the other side. Spread the right toes, sink the heel, firm the thigh, lift on the pelvic floor, navel back to the spine. Feel this energetic power deep within your body. This is more than physical, but we connect to it through the physical. And then hands to the side, using the hip flexor muscle, lift that left knee with the foot flexed. Keep connected to your bandhas, physical seat of the bandhas. Take the hands forward, interlace the hands around the shin or hold the back of the knee. Draw the knee into the chest, push down through the heel of the right foot and stay connected to the bandhas. Now this is the tricky bit to keep the connection, but just keep your mental awareness in your lower belly and your pelvic floor. That's enough as we slice that left foot back through the air. Fingertips reaching back first of all, strong in the back leg, toes face the floor, capital T shape, lift belly up to spine, draw up on the pelvic floor. If you lose the connection, don't worry, just try it again. Pausing here, maybe taking the hands forward for the full posture, full stretch, stay connected. If our consciousness is in the seat of our bandhas, we are much more embodied, we're not in the head, so it's easier to balance. And then come out the way we went in, back up, lifting the knee, drawing the knee to the chest, releasing the hands to the side, and slowly lowering the left foot next to the right. So you can keep practicing this sequence and using this as mental focus. Dhyana, it's tiring for the mind. You may resist, it might be frustrating for you this class, but just see if you can keep coming back to that connection. Great. Okay, we're going to come down to the floor now, so come to sit down. We're going to take some postures that open the psoas again, but first we're going to take Janu Shirshasana. So I'll show you this side. So Janu Shirshasana is, if possible, it's possible to take the weight forward, the hips forward, so that the heel contacts the pelvic floor, the seat of Mula Bandha. So if you can make that physical connection, great. If you can't, don't force it. Really listen to your left knee. And then facing the right leg, find that lift of the pelvic floor, navel to spine. Inhale, lift and stretch. Exhale, coming forward. So hands come to wherever they come to. If you're able to find a connection where you put the palm of the hand to the sole of the foot, so the toes are touching the inner wrist, left hand touches right foot, right hand on top, drop the chin towards the chest, maybe towards Jalandhara Bandha. And then we have an opportunity here for the Mahabandha, the great lock, where all three locks are to some extent activated. Chin to chest, pelvic floor lifts, deep transverse abdominals, gently squeezing towards the spine, breathing deep. And then coming up on an inhale, we're going to go back into this, and you're either going to do exactly the same as what we just did, but there is an option if the knee's okay, if your hips are open, because again we've not been very dynamic today, but Janu Shirshasana B is the Mula Bandha connection posture, because we shunt the hips forward again and we actually sit on our heel. So yeah, it's not particularly comfortable, especially when you're new. After a time you get used to it, but the heel is connecting to the perineum, which is the stretchy muscle between your anus and your genitals. Okay. So if the knee feels okay and you want to have a go at that, you might just want to stay upright and just get used to that feeling, but try the pelvic floor contractions with the heel connection, maybe squeeze, release, and then a sustained squeeze. Only if the hip and the knee is okay do we fold forward, and if any of this is at all a concern, totally don't go there, just repeat Janu Shirshasana A, the one we did before. So either way, we're either upright or we're folding forward, taking a few slow deep breaths, but really focusing on Mula Bandha here, most of all, that contraction of the perineum. Actually, in men it's the perineum, in women it's even more subtle. It's the cervix muscle, so inside the body, up the vagina, the cervic muscles contract. But as I say, this is a vast topic, and I'm not going to say more than that now, because the great starting point is pelvic floor muscles, perineum. It's putting our awareness in the right area of the body, getting us used to diving deeper within than perhaps we're used to. So we're going to come up on an inhale. If you're in Janu B, slowly come off, bring the hips back down. We're going to come out, give that knee a rub if you need. So that there's never any point risking injuring the knee joint. So Janu A is preparing you for Janu B. So we'll swap sides. So again, if you can, take the hands behind you and slide the hips forward to make the contact between the heel and the groin, the pelvic floor, or the kind of opening of the vagina for women. That's great. So, but it's not essential. Okay, so left leg's outstretched, find Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, inhale, reach up, get tall, and exhale, fold forward. Again, hands to thigh, shin, or if the left hand can find the sole, the right hand can find the sole of the left foot with the toes touching the inner wrist, and then the left hand comes on top, chin to chest, then that's an option. It's a very kind of traditional version of Janu Shirshasana that's shown in some of the earliest depictions of yoga asanas. And then you can try Mahabandha, where we have this connection with Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jalandhara Bandha. Powerful posture, more than a posture, a mudra, a sacred gesture. And then on an inhale, come up, just take a moment. If you've got any concerns with that right knee or the hip is tight, you're going to repeat that. Otherwise, Janu B, for those who are up for that, take the hands behind, slide the hips forward and sink the perineum onto the heel. The perineum is one of the softest muscles in the body, the most yin tissues of the body. So yeah, that's why it's not comfortable. The soft perineum meets the bone, the calcaneus bone of the heel. Okay, but so that's why you might need to stay up and just put some weight for your fingertips whilst you get used to that, and just practice contracting and releasing the pelvic floor. Otherwise, we can take the hands forward, inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold. So with this work, we're working to connect and contract these deep muscles. We also have to learn to release them just as quickly. So sometimes these muscles are quite tense chronically, as I said, and our work is to connect with them to the point where we can discern if they're chronically tight and need releasing, or if they're weak and they need strengthening. So we're just building up this relationship with a part of the body that may be new to us. So it's like getting to know yourself at a deeper level, at a new level, which is pretty cool. And then coming up on an inhale, slowly releasing, easing out that knee. Okay, so those who can, again, if you've got any knee issues, you're going to take Janu Shirshasana leg again. Otherwise, we're going to come into half hero here, half reclined hero. So you're going to fold your right leg. Let's do it the other way around so I can show you more easily. So we're going to extend the right leg. We're going to fold the left leg, roll the calf out the way, and trying to keep the knees together, we come onto the top of the foot with the sole of the foot facing up. This is too much for your knee. You can sit on a block, or Janu Shirshasana leg again, the one from before. Okay, so don't compromise your knee joint. But here we're looking for, if you're in the half reclining hero, we're going to look for this stretch across the front of the thigh and the hip. So hands come back, see how that feels. If the knee pops up, it's too much, come back to vertical. Maybe just arch the spine here, lift the chest. And if it's still feeling okay, maybe coming onto the elbows, toes, touch fingertips, maybe arch the spine here. And then if it's still okay, full reclining hero for those for whom it's appropriate. Taking the arms overhead, pushing out through, I've run out of space, push out through the right heel as you stretch the arms overhead. Pushing down through the left knee and trying to keep it close to the right knee. Strong compression in the lower back, so if it's too much for your back, come out. And so wherever you get to, you're just holding that. So you might be on the hands, you might be on the elbows, you might be vertical. And you can come all the way back with Janu Shirshasana as well. With Janu Shirshasana leg, the knee wide, foot to the inner thigh. Great, and then coming up the way we went in. So coming onto the elbows first, then onto the hands, back to vertical, roll to the right, to unfold that leg, give it a rub. And then going to the other side, so rolling to the left, folding the right knee and pushing the calf out of the way, bringing the top of the foot to the floor and the sole of the foot facing up, and we're not sitting on the heel, it's to the outside of the buttocks. Or Janu Shirshasana leg, and then we start to go back, hands first, elbows, arching the spine, so just coming as far as is right for you, checking in with that right knee. If it pops up, you've gone too far. If the lower back starts to complain in the full reclined position, come on back onto the elbows or the hands. So really just listening to your body, going to the place that's right for you. And breathing. And it's true, if you're not all the way down, you're not quite getting the same hip flexor, so a stretch, but it's still really good stuff. Breathe deep. Great, and then at the end of the exhale, just starting to come out the way you went in. Elbows, hands, coming up. Lean to the left, massage the right knee. Great. Okay, so there is an opportunity here. We're going to revisit the half splits, and there's an opportunity to go for full splits if the body feels prepped. And then we're going to come down onto our back. So left foot forward first, sink those hips down, so we find that stretch on the front of the right hip, the psoas, maybe reaching the hands up. See if even here you can find that contraction when the front body's open, we're kind of in a back bend. Can you still find connection to the pelvic floor, to those deep transverse abdominals? It's possible to still activate them even in a back bend. And then exhale, release. back to half Hamonasana, so just staying here if this is appropriate for you today, or it's the journey, not the destination, remember. Or if you want to have a go, Hamonasana, a yoga brick could be very handy here, so that we can start to feel why this is such a key part of Mula Bandha practice. So we start to just heel toe that front foot out, and maybe you just get to here. That's great, just sink into the hips. But if you're getting further, you can come into the heel slide using your hands to make sure you're not out of control. And maybe you get close to the floor, but you're not quite down. And remember, bricks have 3 heights. So you could try putting a brick underneath the seat at the base of the pelvis on the left side, so at least you start to feel what it's like when we ground and connect the base of the pelvis to, well, in this case the support, but eventually the floor, or medium height, lower height, or some of you might be down towards the floor. But what happens here is the pelvic floor is very open, and if we can be that open and connect to the floor, then we can't help but stimulate Mula Bandha, the seat of Mula Bandha. So going as far as is right for you, using that block to kind of cheat our way to feeling what it might feel like to connect Mula Bandha to the floor when the pelvic floor is very open. Maybe if you feel stable, full posture is hands up, don't force that, chest faces forward. Or we're in half Hamonasana, so we're going to think about coming out, so taking the hands forward slowly, bringing the heel in, just between sides, just do what feels good for me. I just like a little child's pose to close everything down after that massive opening. And then back up to tabletop, and we'll just do that little sequence on the other side. So right foot forward, sink the left hips forward and low, stay here if that's enough, or raise the hands up, full crescent moon lunge and Janyasana, stretching up through the fingertips, dropping through the hips. Let's see if you can find, even in the open position, contraction, lift of pelvic floor and slight contraction of deep transverse abdominals. And then exhale, hands down, taking the hips back. Half Hamonasana, coming onto the heel, toes to the ceiling, folding here. Staying here if that feels enough for you. Or you might want to just explore what it's like to heel toe the foot forward. How far do you get until that left hip says enough? If you're getting to the point where you can push the heel out, then your limit's going to be the tightness on the front leg, so you might get to here and be like, okay, that's enough, I need to keep the knee bent. Or you might feel, okay, maybe I can sit on a block here, and then you can bring the torso upright, down one, or again, the floor. So if you're cold, we've not done a lot of dynamic work, so don't force this. I'm feeling a little bit cold. It's very cold here in Portugal at the moment, so I'm going to stay on a block, and that feels great. Then I can really feel that connection, and I can take the hands up. So I'm putting all my awareness now into the pelvic floor where it's connecting with, in this case, the block. Dropping down through my lower body, lifting up through my upper body. Such an incredible, again, it feels to me like more than a posture, something sacred, ancient, mudra-like about Hamonasana. Okay, and then exhale, hands down, slowly coming out, so push through the hands to take the weight as you slide the heel back in. Again, if it feels good, a little child's pose, just closing everything down, maybe full balasana with the hands to the feet. Take a little rest here. And then inhale, coming up to a kneeling position, drop the hips to the side. We're going to come onto our backs. We're going to finish with another front opener, so you'll notice we're doing a lot of work with contraction but also opening for the hips and the abdominals, so a bridge, and then inversions where we start to move really into Jalandhara Bandha practice, and we'll finish with a little bit of breathing and a meditation. Okay, so coming onto the back, bring your heels to the buttocks, and just a simple Setu Bandhasana. So push through the hands and the feet and lift the hips high, opening the quads, opening the hips, stretching the psoas, stretching the abdominals here. Seeing as you may have a brick handy from the splits practice, you can do a supported one, a fully supported one here by taking the brick onto the sacrum and just really enjoying a more restorative front opener here, which could feel quite nice after this practice of deep inner work. So the thing I like about here with the block on the sacrum is you can try it bent legged, which feels lovely, but you can also extend the legs forward and they naturally flop out to the side and you get a really nice psoas stretch. I can almost feel it from where this muscle attaches to the spine and comes across the body, across the hip flexors, and I can almost feel it stretching on that where it attaches at the upper inner thigh. So this is an amazing psoas stretch, or deep postural muscle stretch. But if you don't have a brick, it's fine. You're just supporting yourself with your legs. You're still getting the front body open. You might be interlacing the hands under the back. If you are prepped enough for a full wheel, I'm not going to stop you, but I don't feel warm enough. Breathe into the chest. Okay, and then we're going to slowly come down. So winding the spine back down from the upper back to the lower back, placing the sacrum down on the mat. And just shuffling the skin of the back so everything's connected to the floor, and just take a little rest. Okay, so inversions. If you are new to inversions, this practice might not be appropriate for you. I'm teaching this as for people as if they're familiar with inversions, really. So if you're new at this stage, you might just want to lift the hips, take the hands underneath the buttocks and elevate the legs into the air, but have a sense of pushing down through the back of the head, so you're lengthening the back of the neck. So you're not in Jalandhara Bandha, the chin lock, but you're moving towards that. So pressing the back of the head down, chin drawing in, pressing up through the heels. Okay, so this can be your inversion practice, and take as long as you want in that, and then come down, maybe knees to the chest, until we catch up. Otherwise we're going to do plough, shoulder stand, back to plough, Carnipidasala. So I'm going to talk you through it. Remember, once you're up, don't move your head side to side, so try not to just be tempted to look at the telly, listen to the guidance rather than looking. So we're going to start in plough, so take the hands by the sides, bit of momentum to take the feet back behind us. If the feet touch down, you can interlace the hands and come onto the tops of the shoulders, or if they don't touch down, bend the elbows and support the lower back. So if you're supporting the back and the feet aren't on the floor, you're probably not finding Jalandhara Bandha. If the feet are down, you can press through the feet. I like to come onto the tops of the feet to stretch the tops of the feet, so I'm on the toenails. You can press down to lift the hips higher and bring the spine more vertical, so you're actually bringing the chest towards the chin. When I do that, I naturally come into Jalandhara Bandha. So legs very active, kneecaps lifting, hips high, and at the same time I've interlaced my hands and I'm pushing my little fingers into the mat, drawing the shoulder blades towards each other. So don't worry, don't force Jalandhara Bandha, but just notice if it happens for you naturally here or not, and if it doesn't, just notice how you're moving towards it. The chest and the chin are coming towards each other, and we're strongly stretching the back of the neck. Okay, moving from here to shoulder stand. So bend the elbows, support the lower back, start to take the feet up to the ceiling, and notice what happens to the chin and the chest here. For me, naturally there's a more secure Jalandhara Bandha. I'm not even trying, it's just there. If you're not quite so vertical, if there's a bit of a pike going on at the hips, that's absolutely fine, but just notice you're probably not going to be in Jalandhara Bandha, and don't force it. But after a few breaths, if you can move the hands a little bit higher at the back and send the hips a bit higher,
Eventually, when the hips come to being more or less above the shoulders, that's when Jalandhara Bandha happens. So again, this is a journey. All our yoga asana postures are preparing us for these deep inversions. This posture is sometimes called the mother of all postures. Again, more than a posture, something very sacred and powerful. And I think the Jalandhara Bandha is part of that. Okay, so we're going to move back through plough. So hinge at the hips, use core intelligence, so that pelvic floor and deep transverse abdominal awareness again to bring yourself back to plough. You can release the hands. And then Carnapedasana is when we bend the knees and kind of squeeze like towards the ears and squeeze the ears with the knees. They may not make contact with the knees, but that's the direction. And you can again interlace the fingers, and also be nice to take the hands back behind you to hold the feet. Or even take them behind the knees and close the ears off with the hands for full pratyahara, sense withdrawal. So again, for me, that's a real Jalandhara Bandha. So we're going to roll out of Carnipidasana with control. So just start to allow the spine to reconnect to the mat from the upper back to the lower back. If your back's not so open, it might not happen quite so easily as that, but do the best you can. When you might need your hands as your brakes in front of you. When you get to the sacrum on the mat and the legs vertical, just pause there. And then you can either bend the knees or single leg lower, or if you want that little core challenge, just continue with straight legs, pressing the sacrum down, really working the core. But actually we're working more with the superficial six-pack and the deeper muscles in that lower, and you might feel the difference there. And just take a moment in like a Tadasana mountain pose on the floor. And then we're going to do the counter posture, the fist, just a simple version. If you do want a more complex version, crossing the legs, then that's fine, but I'm going to teach this simple version with the legs straight, holding onto the outer buttocks, elbows close to the sides. Push through the elbows, lift the chest, so we're arching the spine. Drop the head back, open and expose the throat now. Breathe, breathe into the throat. Breathe into the chest and the throat. I love this posture. Okay, and then coming out, slowly bring the chin to the chest, walk the elbows out to the side, and lower yourself down onto the mat. Great. And just pause here for a moment. And then when you're ready, bring the knees into the chest. We're pretty much done. Let's just take a happy baby, holding on to the edges of the feet, or maybe the ankles or the knees. Knees towards the armpits, shins vertical. Relax. Relax the jaw, the belly. And then from here, we're going to come back up to seated. So just roll to the side, push yourself up. We're just going to finish a little bit of pranayama and just a final meditation or inner awareness exercise again to reconnect with these parts of the body before we close in Shavasana. So come to a seated position again. If it's possible to find that contact between heel and groin, then great, but not essential. As we did before, dropping through the pelvis, lifting up through the spine. I'm taking Yanana Mudra, thumb to first finger, extending the last three fingers, but whatever's comfortable for you, hands in the laps, maybe with the tips of the thumbs touching, whatever works for you. Just connect to your breath. Ujjayi breath.
just having a sense as we breathe, Ujjayi breath. We're going to feel like as we inhale, this breath is travelling from the seat of Mula Bandha and the perineum. Or if you can visualise it, women, in the cervix muscles, if you can visualise where they are, it's just below where you perceive the tip of the spine to be. So it's like you're travelling up the vagina and the neck of the womb. It's our cervix, this ring of muscles. So you may be able to make contact with that part of the body, but for men it's the perineum, the muscle between the anus and the genitals. But either way, just have that sense of the breath moving up from that area, up the spine to the crown of the head as we inhale. And as we exhale, moving from the crown of the head back down towards the seat of Mula Bandha. So we're just going to do a simple count. We're going to breathe in for 4, out for 4, and for 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So even inhale, even exhale, but with this visualization, breathing in from the perineum or the cervix to the crown, breathing out from the crown to the base of the body. Okay, so breathing in first of all for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, crown to base. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, crown to base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, base to crown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out, crown to base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And release. Let's stay with conscious breath. Have a sense of elongating the back of the neck, drawing the chin towards the chest. Maybe Jalandhara Bandha. It's like this arching of the chin forward and almost pulling up on the skin of the chest to find that contact. Chin to sternum, chin to chest. Or just drawing the chin in towards the chest. And just stay here, feeling rooted down through the pelvis. Slide your awareness down the spine into the pelvic bowl. And we're just going to finish with just probing with our awareness our inner workings again, to see if we can just visualise where we perceive these bandhas to be, remembering that we're working on the physical today, but they are more than physical, and eventually, once we work with bandhas physically, and once we understand them intellectually, so we're working with them mentally, we can eventually let go of all that and it just becomes energetic. We can do it with our consciousness, and eventually it's very to do with our spiritual rebirthing. We activate the Kundalini energy and know all that we are. So we start that process by learning about more of our inner physical workings. So we've really connected with the physical aspects of the bandhas today, but now see if you can just probe. So for men, the space between the anus and the genitals, just dropping your awareness there and seeing if you can find, they say it's about midway where you perceive to be Mula Bandha, and then having a sense of engaging Mula Bandha. And it doesn't need to be physical, there probably will be a physical manifestation, but let it be very subtle, gentle contraction or lifting of that area. But more just with your consciousness. And women, see if you can travel your awareness inside your body. I mean, how out there is that for many of us? When do we do that? Very often. So literally take a journey with your consciousness from the opening of the vagina up that passage to where you perceive the neck of the womb to be. And there's no wrong or right here. It's where you feel it is where it is. Just trust your intuition, but for a physical cue, it's about 2 centimetres or so off the ground, just below where the spine ends, the tip of the spine ends. That's roughly where the neck of the womb is. And if you no longer have your womb, there's still an energetic imprint within you, so you can still feel this, perceive this. So don't worry if you don't connect today, it's just a journey and exploration. But if you do feel something that feels like, this is it, just kind of mark it with your consciousness, maybe imagining like a little red light or a little white light, or red is good because it's all linked to the root chakra, the base chakra, the colour of which is red. And then just finally, these last few moments, just breathe from that area. Feel as you inhale like an expansion. This is a real power centre, this is a resource of energetic power. So feel that you're breathing, expanding. If you're imagining a light, it's expanding, brightening, it's spreading through the whole body. And exhaling, being directed to where it's needed most. Let's do that a few more times. Conscious breaths, expanding on the inhale from that place through the body, and exhale, directing it. And you may have a sense of consciously directing it to where you feel it's needed, maybe an injury or your heart or whatever, or just allowing it to go where it's needed most and trusting that it will. A couple more. And then from here, just finding your way to Shavasana. Really important to take at least a minute or so in Shavasana after a practice like this for integration. So come to lie on your mat. The feet flop out to the side. If you need a little knees to chest or anything, then take it. And maybe you need to do a couple of deep breaths. Breathing out through the mouth. Just check you're fully relaxed, fully aligned. Blanket if you need, something over the eyes if you need. And just let go here. Let go of any breath technique, let go of any visualization, let go of any muscle effort. And just one last time, scan your body, probe your body, because as I say, many of these deep inner muscles are chronically tight. The psoas in particular is linked to our fight or flight sympathetic nervous system response. So if we're under a lot of stress, chronic stress, or low-lying anxiety or stress, it's often just engaged a lot without us realising. So just, again, if you don't make actual connection to these muscles, it doesn't matter, but just give them permission to release. So you feel fully relaxed through the body, from the outer body, the skin, all the way to the deepest inner workings of your body. Letting the breath become very natural and soft. And if you have longer today to spend in Shavasana, I highly recommend a longer Shavasana after a practice like this, deep work. But if you wish to close with me, then slowly start to make the small movements into the fingers and the toes. Maybe bringing the knees to the chest, maybe a full body stretch. Take your time and slowly making your way back to seated. If you're not ready to come out of Shavasana, listen to that and honour that. Stay. It's the luxury of a home practice. Otherwise, we're meeting back in seated. Just let's close the class, bringing the hands together and doing one more lam. So instead of on, it's a lam. Taking a deep breath in. Just feeling again the swirling echoes of that through the body, maybe vibrations deep in the pelvic bowl. And if you're ready, if the eyes are closed, open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for practicing. And just know that when we practice like this, it's like putting a penny in a pot, and each time we do, our awareness grows, our Bandha journey develops and blossoms, and there's no rush, it's all about the journey. So thank you for sharing, hope to see you again on the mat soon.